Day anniversary. Although riddled by a lot of challenges, we'll also be assessing the milestones we have reached. But before we do that, let's head over to our news desk and join Amo Marcus to bring us up to speed with some developments in the news this morning. Hello and good morning, Amma.
Hello Chijoke, hello B2, good morning and welcome to ADBN News at 7. We bring you the latest headlines from across the nation and the world. I am Amma Marcus. Federal government has handed over 64 compressed natural gas buses to representatives of the Trade Union Congress, the Nigerian Labour Congress and the National Association of Nigerian Students. The handover of the buses took place yesterday at the State House Conference Center, Abuja, as part of activities marking Nigeria's 64th independence anniversary. Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, led the government delegation that included the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Alhaji Muhammad Idris, the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Abubakar Bagudu, and the Minister of State for Youth Development, Engineer Ayodele Olawande.
Secretary General, TUC, the Managing Director of the Presidential CNG Initiative, and indeed the Vice Chairman of that committee on CNG. Other government officials here present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen of the press. We have just come, some of us, from the church service commemorating our 64th anniversary of the independence of Nigeria. So let me say happy independence, happy anniversary to you and indeed all Nigerians. It's a major milestone, 25 years of unbroken democracy under the presidential system, and of course 64 years and a nation. Our prayer is that we have many more years of such. Amen. Looking up, and I congratulate all of us both on our independence and achieving this major step in our transition to a cleaner and cheaper fuel. Thank you and God bless.
Mr. Edun described the distribution of the buses as fulfilling President Bola Tinubu's promise to provide affordable and efficient transportation to support Nigerians after the removal of fuel subsidy under the presidential initiative on compressed natural gas. He emphasized that this initiative aims to alleviate the burden on the poor and vulnerable and supports macroeconomic reforms that would position the country on the path to economic stability. The minister further explained that the symbolic handover of 64 buses on the eve of Nigeria's National Day marks the beginning of a broader national rollout, with the plan to distribute over 500 CNG buses and 100 electric vehicles in the first instance. President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, extended his condolences to the family of late Elder Inihari Uko during the burial ceremony of the deceased in Abak community at the Mekpo local government area of Akwa Ibom State. Senator Akpabio emphasized the importance of honoring those who have contributed to the nation's progress.
I appreciate our dear mother, the Kaide Uloma Godswill Akpabio, the wife of the Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And I want to also recognize the bereaved family, say that God Almighty will take care of that in the Aruko's family in Jesus' name. And after we heard the tragic news yesterday, I would like all of us to rise and also observe a minute silence, both for the patriarch of the Oko family in the Haruko and also for the wife of our state governor, Mrs. Umano, who has just passed on. Can we be upstanding, please? May the souls of late Elder Ini Arioko and Mrs. Umano rest in perfect peace.
Senator Akpabio highlighted the significant support of late Elder Uko's wife as the woman leader of the All Progressives Congress Party in the state.
For me, the family of Ini Aruko is very special to me because the late Inuko more or less donated the wife to work for us in the political arena. A woman leader, a great mobilizer, a woman of excellence, a woman who has received various awards, and the one that was recently honored as the special name they gave you in Abuja when the women honored you. My sister Ogonodom, my presence here is to let you know that you are not alone. Do you hear what I said? You are not alone. Turn to somebody and say, I am not alone. I am not alone. Because God is with me. My senator is also with me. Can you shout hallelujah?
He pledged to empower the women of Aba community through various initiatives spearheaded by his wife, Her Excellency Mrs. Unoma Akpabio. He also announced plans to commission a community road project during his next visit, reaffirming his dedication to bringing development to the region.
Brother Sawayan Foniso came to me and hinted me, and through the grace of God, the contract has been awarded. The next time I visit this place, I want to commission the road for Abat. I want to commission the road for Abat so that we can truly turn Abat into Abat town. Abat is there. Abat is there. Any complaint? The people of Abat town who are going to have brand new roads and other facilities in Jesus' name. The women of Abat town will also be specially empowered. So,
Managing Director, Nigerian Railway Corporation, Mr. Fidet Okira, has set up a committee headed by the Deputy Director, Mr. Raphael Odang, to probe allegations of ticket racketeering in the corporation's Abuja-Kaduna train service. The committee is also to resolve difficulties in obtaining online tickets on the route, which resulted in the alleged ticket racketeering. The NRC chief, in a statement, directed the Director of Operations, Mr. Akin Osiwonto, to increase the frequency of train operations on the Abuja-Kaduna corridor in the next 2 weeks to accommodate the surge in the demand for train service on the route. He also approved the redeployment of Mr. Mohammed Ibrahim as the new AKTS manager. He is to lead the reorganization of the Abuja station and checkmate touts in the nation's second standard gauge assets. The managing director pleaded with the passengers to bear with the corporation and assured that the situation was being brought under control. Troops of 6th Division, Nigerian Army, in recent operations in the creeks of Niger Delta have arrested 11 suspects along with dangerous weapons along the east-west road in the Delta State axis. In the preceding week, 11 suspects were arrested, over 20 illegal bunkering sanctuaries deactivated, and 22 boats used for criminality were intercepted. Additionally, 6 arms of various calibers and cartridges were recovered, with over 118,000 liters of stolen products handled appropriately in various operations conducted across the region. In Bayelsa State, around Okokokiri General Area in Nembe Local Government Area, 1 illegal refining site, 2 massive metal tanks with reservoirs were deactivated, with over 30,000 liters of stolen products recovered. Also, in Diabo Creek in Southern Ijaw Local Government Area, 2 active illegal refining sites, 3 drums, 5 boats, and with over 4,500 liters of stolen products were confiscated. In a related development, at the Okwami oil field in Warri South Local Government Area, 1 wooden boat was intercepted. You're watching 8BN News at 7. Watch us on DSTV channel 258, on Star Times channel 140, Avo TV app, Limex World TV app, and Niger TV app. For more stories, visit our website on adbntv.com. Stay with us for more stories after this break.
Welcome to the world where innovation meets opportunity, where ideas become empires. This is Market TV.
I am Idorian Flannan, and every week I'll be taking you inside the dynamic world of marketing and commercial business.
From groundbreaking startups to big businesses, Market TV brings you the best pricing and latest goods on display.
It's all about understanding your audience and staying ahead of the trends.
Witness the creative processes that drive the various brands.
Join us as we dive deep into the strategies that shape the commercial landscape. From streets to traditional advertising and social media, we cover it all.
Whether you're a seasoned professional or an aspiring entrepreneur, Market TV provides the insights you need to thrive.
This show gave us the tool to turn our vision into reality.
So, if you're ready to master the market, tune into Market TV every Saturday at 6 p.m.
In a world of overwhelming voices where everyone has different opinion on different issues, it is important that we bring the core issue to the fore. Join me, Nancy Banigo, on Softline as we lend our voices to inform and influence your thoughts and actions. This is not just mere talk, it is an invocative program that touches the core of our existence.
Welcome back and thank you for staying tuned. You're watching ADBN News at 7. And now to reports on the foreign scene. Lebanon's health ministry has reported that Israeli strikes killed nearly 60 more people following Israel's continued bombardment of Hezbollah targets in Lebanon and also strikes in Yemen. The attacks follow an airstrike on Beirut's densely populated southern suburbs on Friday, which killed its leader, Hassan Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah's group, engaged in cross-border fire with Israel for almost a year. Lebanon's ministry said air raids near the main southern city of Sidon killed 32 people on Sunday, while at least 25 died in the east. France's foreign ministry, without providing details, announced on Sunday that a second French national had been killed in Lebanon following the death of a woman after a blast in southern Lebanon on Monday. Israeli leaders have expressed a desire for their displaced citizens in the north to be able to return safely. Israel's military also said dozens of its warplanes targeted Iran-backed Houthi rebels in war-ravaged Yemen on Sunday, including areas around the port of Hodeidah, a critical entry point for fuel and humanitarian aid. Over to sports, Remo Stars of Ikenne have successfully retained their position at the top of the Nigeria Premier Football League following a 2-1 victory over Rangers International of Enugu on Sunday night. Alex teamed up effectively with Frank to open the scoring for Remo in the 51st minute. However, the lead was short-lived as Kenechukwu Agu equalized for Rangers with a penalty just 4 minutes later. Tochukwu Michael netted the winning goal for Remo Stars, securing their 4th consecutive victory and maintaining a perfect record at the top of the table with 12 points. In other matches on Sunday, Rivers United defeated Eyimba 2-0, while Aba Warriors achieved their first win of the season, beating Kano Pillars 2-0 in Umuahia. Dutch coach Erik ten Hag has brushed aside questions about his future following Manchester United's disappointing 3-0 defeat to Tottenham on Sunday. Despite his loss, which was United's 3rd in 7 games this season, Ten Hag asserted that he remains the right person for the job. He informed newsmen that a review of the team's performance has already been conducted, expressing confidence that his superiors will adhere to the established plan. Ten Hag acknowledged that the squad is not performing well enough and criticized the manner in which Tottenham took the lead. That's it on ADBN News at 7. Remember to watch us live on DSTV channel 258, on Star Times channel 140, Avo TV app, Limex World TV app, and Niger TV app. For more stories, visit our website on adbntv.com. Not forgetting, you can watch us live from every part of the world by logging on to adbntv.com/live. Thanks for joining the news this morning. I am Ama Marcus. Do stay tuned for the continuation of Morning Express.
Well, thanks to Ama Marcus for keeping us abreast with news developments in and outside Nigeria on our first major news bulletin this morning. Well, it's still on a solemn note that we look to begin our conversation this morning as we continue to mourn and commiserate with the good people of Akwa Ibom State following the demise of their First Lady, late Pastor Patience Umueno. We continue to extend our warm condolences to the family and good people of the state at this trying period. Now, be reminded that other segments in our lineup this morning would be followed by a review of headline stories as published on the national dailies. Prominent in the news is efforts of the federal government to stem the hardship occasioned by a hike in the pump price of PMS, otherwise known as petrol. Well, that would take the next 60 minutes as we go through individual newspapers to get perspectives in line with the editorial guidelines. After which we'd have a more robust dialogue at 9 o'clock on Nigeria's 64th independence. The journey so far. Are there milestones to be applauded? Are there some hitches in the journey that need to be attended to? This would form the basis of our broader conversation. And at 10 a.m., we'll be joined by our Abuja sports editor, who would also link up to our Uyo studios to review actions from the weekend's fixtures. Controversial sending off of Manchester's captain Bruno Fernandes that saw them lose to Tottenham, and other eventful features across Europe. This is about the size of what to expect on the show this morning. We do hope that you would stay tuned and enjoy the program. Please stay with us.
It is Groovy Mono, aka the Steve Prince.
Yo, what's up? It's Big Shags. I'm in London.
Hey guys, I'm Princess Jekoko. My name is Mutale Mwanza, the Queen of Zambian Media.
My name is Grand Prince Itek. Hi guys, my name is Baj Adibule. I'm an actor and a filmmaker.
Hello guys, I'm Falagade Banks.
My name is Kelechi Amadiobi, photographer, storyteller.
My name is Nanrade Dura, an actor.
My name is Chidi Mokime.
Hi, my name is Uche Uba.
It's Tobe Season.
I'm Miss Thames.
Hi ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, mamas and papas, I am Jimmy. You can call me the entertainer.
My name is Esio Dometa. I am an actor and a film producer.
My name is Sobi Kubana.
Hi. My name is Julius the Genius. I would give a shout out to ADBN.
Big shout out to ADBN TV.
You're watching ADBN.
And you are watching.
Keep watching ADBN TV.
And this is ADBN TV.
And this is a shout out to ADBN TV. Keep watching, don't switch the dial.
Shout out to ADBN. Keep watching, love.
And you are watching ADBN TV.
Shout out to ADBN TV.
I've got one thing for you. Make sure you keep watching ADBN TV.
And shout out
to ADBN TV.
Shout out to ADBN TV. Don't touch the dial.
And you're watching
ADBN TV. Keep watching ADBN TV.
And I'm shouting out to ADBN TV.
You're watching ADBN TV.
Keep watching ADBN TV. This is where to be.
And you're watching ADBN.
And shout out to
ADBN TV.
And shout out to ADBN TV. Keep watching.
and you're watching ADBN TV.
Keep watching ADBN TV.
Right now, you are checking out ADBN TV. One time.
ADBN. Keep watching. I love you and kisses.
Keep watching ADBN.
And a special shout out to ADBN. Keep doing what you're doing, guys.
Please don't touch that dial.
Stay groovy.
Hey, Bobby.
Ha!
It's a shout out to ADBN.
ADBN, Advocate Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to the Niger Delta, a region of incredible beauty and stark contrast. From its breathtaking landscapes to its rich cultural heritage, this is a place where history and modernity collide. But beneath this serene surface lies a story of struggle and resilience. The Niger Delta is the lifeblood of Nigeria's economy, home to vast oil reserves that fuel the nation, yet it is a land where the people fight for their share of the wealth. Join us on the program Niger Delta Today as we explore the heart of the Niger Delta, discover the vibrant cultures, the struggles for environmental justice, and the stories of the people who call this place home. This is the Niger Delta, a land of contrast, a story of resilience, a journey of hope. Don't miss our exclusive series, Niger Delta Today, every day at 12 noon, only on ADBN TV. Witness the untold stories, experience the journey, be part of the change.
Welcome to the world where innovation meets opportunity, where ideas become empires. This is Market TV.
I am Idorian Flannan, and every week I'll be taking you inside the dynamic world of marketing and commercial business.
From groundbreaking startups to big businesses, Market TV brings you the best pricing and latest goods on display.
It's all about understanding your audience and staying ahead of the trends.
Witness the creative processes that drive the various brands.
Join us as we dive deep into the strategies that shape the commercial landscape. From streets to traditional advertising and social media, we cover it all.
Whether you're a seasoned professional or an aspiring entrepreneur, Market TV provides the insights you need to thrive.
This show gave us the tool to turn our vision into reality.
So, if you're ready to master the market, tune into Market TV every Saturday at 6 p.m.
No matter wetin I see, enough fit make mouth heavy to talk am. That's now why people dey talk.
You know wetin dey worry you, but you no go fit take help yourself.
In this kind of situation now, what if they really no talk to una? Wetin be the way forward?
They go bury our chairman on Thursday. We go remain here.
Make we talk good where we dey see good, and where we know say we no dey see good, make we also dey talk am.
No woman, no mother deserve to know the grave of his child.
The bank manager and the bank executive, they are the one the government should first pay.
People They Talk, the show on Monday to Friday by 5 p.m. on top ADBN TV.
In a world of overwhelming voices where everyone has different opinion on different issues, it is important that we bring the core issue to the fore. Join me, Nancy Banigo, on Softline as we lend our voices to inform and influence your thoughts and actions. This is not just mere talk, it is an invocative program that touches the core of our existence.
Step into the heartbeat of the world where news meets real talk. From breakthroughs in diplomacy to humanitarian challenges and scientific milestones, Global Digest takes you beyond the headlines and straight to the heart of the matter. am Amma Marcus. Be a part of the world's unfolding stories at 3 p.m. on ADBN, channel 258 on DSTV, and Star Times, channel 140. Global Digest, your window to the world's current affairs, only on Advocate Broadcasting Network.
Well, thanks for staying with us as we look to start the work week while keeping you abreast with headline stories as published according to the editorial guidelines of the various newspapers. We do remind you that these headlines are read as published and are not in any way a reflection of ADBN Television's position on issues in the news. Now, let's begin with one of the first newspapers greeting our discuss this morning that also highlights comments made by prominent Nigerians ahead of tomorrow's 64th independence anniversary. President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, has said despite the bumpy days, he believes that Nigeria would be great again. Now, this is the headline story as published on This Day newspaper. On This Day newspaper this morning would find that headline story, 64th anniversary. Despite bumpy days, nation will prevail, says Akpabio. 64th anniversary, despite bumpy days, nation would prevail, says Akpabio. Now, strap lines beneath that headline story read, declares Tinubu's dedication inspirational, insists Southeast not marginalized. SGF urges Obasanjo to continue to speak in support of national unity existence. States Nigeria would be most prosperous under current administration. Oborori urges citizens to persevere. Now, above that headline feature, you'd find a picture of prominence with the caption, celebrating transformational leadership, besides which you'd find the feature story. FG hands over 64 CNG buses to Labour students, vows to sustain downward trend of inflation. Now, above the masthead on This Day this morning, on the header is the caption, Cardoso, World Bank, IMF brainstorm to craft new strategies for inclusive growth in Africa. Now, away from the first newspaper with the comments that you find on the headline story from the President of the Senate, ahead of the independence anniversary tomorrow, would find the publication on 3 more papers in terms of the headline with regards to the protest that's planned by the #End Bad Governance protesters. Now, there are 2 angles to it. Civil society organizations are urging President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to dialogue with protesters. Some reports say that the police are unaware of planned protests today, while other papers say that some policemen have been assigned to flashpoints to mitigate against a breakdown in order. Now, 3 papers have this contrast in their reportage. They are The Punch, The Daily Sun, and The Vanguard. We'll look at all 3 together now, shall we? Now, to begin with, on The Punch newspaper, The headline has the catchphrase, October 1, police man flashpoints, APC, opposition clash. October 1, police man flashpoints, APC, opposition clash. State police commands deploy teams. Organizers insist on rally as PDP, LP berate APC. Now beneath that you'd find the pictures of prominence with the caption, Nigeria at 64, Obasanjo, Akpabio, SGF, service chiefs grace Thanksgiving service. Now this is in reference to the interdenominational service, part of the activities highlighting the country's 64th independence anniversary as read out by the SGF during the World Press Conference at the Radio House in Abuja last week Thursday. Now one thing you'd find in common with these three newspapers are the similarity in their pictures of prominence, all reflecting that interdenominational Thanksgiving service that was held on Sunday. Now let's come back to the Punch newspaper and look at all the feature stories that might interest you this morning. Beneath that prominent picture on the rider, three stories. FG raises teams to avert ASU strike. Police began probe as lion kills keeper in Obasanjo library. Constitution amendments. Regional government tops 56 memoranda to National Assembly. On the header of the Punch, Naira for crude deal begins Tuesday, says Tinubu panel. 17 governors raise minimum wage panels. Cameroon down. Nemo crew monitors Niger Benue rivers. Now let's leave the Punch newspaper for a second and look at other newspapers on the screen. To begin with, the Daily Sun. Next to the masthead you'd find, I won't give my kidney or liver to remain governor, says Fubara. Beneath that, Southeast, South lawmakers push for new states. Senators unite against governors on local government autonomy. The headline on the Daily Sun. Much like the Punch, you'd find October 1 protest. Organizers defiant. Police keep silent. We're not aware of any strike, says organized labor. Now on the Vanguard this morning, the catchphrase is much similar. You'd find October 1, police deploy in states as organizers insist on protest. October 1, police deploy in states as organizers insist on protest. Now let's look at some of the accompanying strap lines for a broader perspective into this. You'd find government failed to address protesters' demands, says Deji. Adeyanju hopes more detained protesters will be released today. Refrain from any acts of violence, says the federal government. Give FG more time to fix economy, says Kogi police. Restriction of protests to 2 designated venues still stands, says the Lagos state government. CP Lagos meets organizers, assures on security professionalism. Jigawa police deployment today. Do not join any protests. Naus tells varsity students. Now on the rider, Labour accuses IOCs, mining agents of exploiting port workers. Cement. Demand soars amid price hikes. Decline purchasing power. Serap to INEC chair, obey judgment on electoral offences, or Nigeria could end insecurity in 1 year if, says Ndume. And in sports, Rivers United beat Enyimba 2-0. NPFL, Finidi, Rivers United overpower Enyimba. Now above the masthead on the Vanguard, you'd find some interesting stories, and to start with is a comment in blue by the Minister of Power, Chief Adebayo Adelabu, who says over 40% of Nigerians now enjoy over 20 hours of electricity. We will resist unitarianism in Nigeria politics, says Afani Fere. FG hands over 64 CNG buses to labor unions. Now, on the handing over of 64 buses, much like we reported in our first major news bulletin, is also captured on our next set of papers. On the Nigerian News Direct, you'd find the lead story as regards the aforementioned. Let's look at it together. On the Nigerian News Direct and on the blueprint, you'd find a similarity in that headline feature. On the News Direct, the headline reads, FG delivers 64 CNG buses to Labour, students leaders amid rising fuel prices. Tinubu reiterates commitment to easing cost of living as unions express growing frustration over fuel hikes. Now, above the masthead on the Nigerian News Direct, you'd find stories. Tragedy as lion kills zookeeper in Abeokuta. Nigeria's banking reserve skyrockets to 26.8 trillion naira in aggressive CBN tightening. Alleged 15 million naira bribe, Bobrisky slams 1 billion naira defamation suit on Very Dark Man. Airtel's smart router redefining home and office connectivity is an advertorial next to the stories on the header. Now let's cross over to the blueprint as we look at more feature stories together. Now on the blueprint, a very similar headline to that on the Nigerian News Direct, as you find FG hands over 64 CNG buses to NLC TUC NANS to distribute 2,000 CNG tricycles to youth. It is a promise kept, says Information Minister. Now beneath that, you'd find pictures capturing the handing over ceremony, while you find in view the Information Minister from left to right, the coordinating Minister of Economy and Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale Edun. You'd also find the Minister of National Budget and Planning at a tape cutting ceremony following the handover of the 64 CNG buses. Now on the rider, police organizers dialogue over October 1 protest. FG monitors to forestall chaos. Activists give conditions. Now above this, you'd find on the header, NIMET predicts 3-day thunderstorm nationwide from Monday. Now, beneath that, another comment from the power minister is captured. Most Nigerians enjoy 20 hours daily power supply. Now, I believe for one that this is one of the controversial stories that you would find more reactions to. If you go online now, do well to also follow us across social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and on X at ADBN_TV. Remember that you can also engage and share your reactions to the headline stories, but remember to refrain from using inflammatory statements when you do so. For a fact, if we're supposed to carry out an analysis, how many Nigerians are on Band A? Band A, which is the characterization of those who enjoy 20 hours or more of power supply. Do you agree with the Power Minister, Chief Adebayo Adelabu, that more than 40% of Nigerians do, for a fact, enjoy more than 20 hours of electricity daily? Big question this morning. Well, looking to answer that question, the editorial on our next newspaper, The Times, the Daily Times, has decided to headline and lead with that story. Now, looking at the Daily Times this Monday, you'd find that headline story capturing the comments from the Information Minister, Power Minister rather. It reads, more than 40% of Nigerians now enjoy 20 hours of power supply daily, says Adelabu, credits achievements in power sector to radical, bold steps taken by Tinubu's administration. Beneath that, you have three feature stories. Oil theft. NNPC dismantles over 8,000 illegal refineries, 5,800 pipelines in 6 months. FG approves 350 billion naira to support dams, irrigation facilities, says Minister. Prioritize local value addition, key to Africa industrialization, says Alake. Now, and above the masthead, you'd find videos on stranded Nigerians abroad on social media. Let's be cautious. A warning is issued by the federal government. Now, on the rider of the Daily Times newspaper, you'd find the story. FG hands over 64 CNG buses to labor unions, NANS. Now, there are more newspapers greeting our discuss this morning, and as they come in, we'll look to shuffle them as we look to give you an overview of other headline stories. Now, let's pick up the Daily Trust newspaper. On the Daily Trust newspaper, the next newspaper greeting our discuss this morning, it's on the situation in Kaduna State, with reports following the involvement of the Nigerian Air Force. Beneath the masthead, you'd find the story, residents, NAF, disagree as airstrike kills scores in Kaduna. 23 worshippers amongst victims, says locals. state governments wary of developments. You'd also find other headlines where we only hit terrorist base is the last strap line there. Now, Kaduna has been in recent times a hotspot following activities by the Nigerian Armed Forces to dispel bandits, but it seems to have left a recurrent decimal of civilian casualties in recent times. And above that headline story, but beneath the masthead, are three feature stories. LG poll, uncertainty in Rivers PDP as Fubara, allies defect to APP. Constitution review, Northern, Southern senators disagree on regionalism. Media Trust donates 10 million naira to Maiduguri flood victims. And on the rider, heart disease spike, fuel sudden deaths in Nigeria. Heart disease spike, fuel sudden deaths in Nigeria. Now, this is owing to the editorial perspective as to how cardiovascular disease has taken a toll on the recent deaths of Nigerians, as it may seem as though more persons are dying lately, with findings showing that frequent deaths are as a result of heart disease. Now, away from the Daily Trust, the next paper to look at this morning is The Guardian. On The Guardian, away from the October 1 protest, the issues with the fuel hike, The Guardian chooses to look at the NNPC in an editorial piece that looks at it from the angle of debt and its subsidiaries. Now, beneath the masthead on The Guardian, you'd find the headline, only 7 of 20 subsidiaries viable as NNPCL battles 22 trillion naira debt. We have an infographics accompanying this headline story breaking down the debt and the financial burdens of the NNPCL, which according to The Guardian has made the business somewhat unprofitable. 9 key subsidiaries with major debts as listed include Port Harcourt Refinery, with a debt standing at the tune of 1.97 trillion naira. You also have Kaduna Refinery, debt to the tune of 1.36 trillion naira, NNPC on gas infrastructure, owing 1.86 trillion naira. Warri Refinery also in that debt margin with 1.17 trillion naira in debt. Now, beneath that, you also have some of the debt growth projections in the year under review and the outstanding crude-backed loans that Nigeria has taken over the period in view. Now, on the rider, also stories that would interest you as published by The Guardian this morning. Obaseki, Shaibu bicker over alleged plot to invade government house. Obaseki, Shaibu bicker over alleged plot to invade government house. PDP crisis deepens as North Central Caucus insists on replacing Damagum. Afenifere disapproves FG's proposed NLGEC. FG okays 350 billion naira to tackle flooding. 96% of SMEs struggling under inflation control policies, economists warn. Anxiety as Tinubu's government braces for second mass protest in 2 months. Serap, Action Aid demand INEC's prosecution of bribery offences against governors, deputies. Is a feature story on The Guardian as well. Now, let's also pick up The Nation newspaper and keep it with more newspapers greeting our discuss this morning. On The Nation newspaper would find as headline this morning, stories concerning the efforts of the government to curb the cost of living crisis. Now, as headline beneath the masthead, you'd find federal government $175 million investments in CNG to end reliance on petrol. Now, beneath that, you have pictures telling the story following the handover of 64 CNG buses yesterday and the official tape cutting ceremony. Strapline reads, 70 buses expected. Labour, students, FCT gets 64 to mark nation's independence. It is a major step to fight inflation, says Edo. On the rider, foreign investor portfolios hit 5-year high at 655.5 billion naira. Leaders raise hope of brighter future. Now and again, comments from the Power Minister Adebayo Adelabu, 40% of electricity users now have 20 hours of power, says Adelabu. Now, another story that is generating quite the reactions online is ahead of an impending strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU. The Standard Times newspaper has this as its lead. On the Standard Times newspaper, you'd find FG, ASU face off. Strike looms after expiration of 21-day ultimatum. FG, ASU face off. Strike looms after expiration of 21-day ultimatum is the headline story on the Standard Times. Above the masthead, you'd find NDIC, others harp on bank fintech's collaboration towards Nigeria's $1 trillion economy. Whilst on the rider of the Standard Times, Naira weakens further, depreciates to 1,700 Naira per dollar at parallel markets. FG procures 64 CNG buses for Students' Union, organized labor. SEC issues warning to illegal fund managers. Nigerians celebrates corrupt government officials, says Ndume. Tourism injects 4.1 trillion naira into Lagos GDP, according to a report, more of which is published on the news page 13 of the Standard Times. Now, in keeping with more newspapers this morning, let's also do well to accommodate the business day. Now, the business day looks at it from the angle of an editorial on why Nigeria's apex bank, the CBN, is losing the battle to stabilize the naira. If you would recall, we just looked at the Standard Times where the writer story is telling us that the naira has further depreciated to 1,700 naira per dollar this morning. Now, the business day is looking to paint the picture as to why the CBN is failing to rescue and give life to the naira. Now, let's look at that lead story on its publication together this morning. You'd find beneath the masthead on the business day, why CBN is losing battle to stabilize naira. Why CBN is losing battle to stabilize naira. More on that story reviews the past week, which was particularly volatile, one of the weeks in which the naira took the intervention of the CBN to patch things up. You'll recall that over last week, we discussed the intervention with certain BDCs getting over $2,000 with a price peg on how much to sell them to seeking and willing buyers. Now, away from the business day, let's also make well to look at the front page of the Daily Independent. On the Daily Independent this morning, you'd find more on naira devaluation and what it will cost Nigeria to get its vision of $1 trillion economy on track. On the Daily Independent, you'd find the lead story, naira devaluation floating, putting FG's $1 trillion economy target at risk. Naira devaluation floating, putting FG's $1 trillion economy target at risk. On the rider, digital switchover hangs in the balance after 19 billion naira allocation. Now, to the left, you'd find feature stories as lined up on the Daily Independent. Electoral offences, Serap ask INEC to obey court judgment or face contempt charge. Northern youths vow to join October 1 protest. Police investigate death of man at Obasanjo's zoological garden. FG launches 350 billion naira initiative to tackle Nigeria's food flood challenges. ASU asks Nigerians to prevail on FG to avert looming strike. The rider in red, NIMET warns of 3 days thunderstorm in parts of Nigeria. Now, on the header of the Daily Independent, you'd find stories that would interest you. LG poll, court orders RECIS to use 2023 voter register. Tinubu hands over 64 CNG buses to organized labor, NANS. Now, and in keeping with more newspaper, let's also quickly move on to the Daily News Hub this morning. And on the Daily News Hub, you'd find more stories of interest with the fallout of the Edo gubernatorial election. Now, the Daily News Hub looks at the situation in Edo State, particularly in two ways, from the angle of law enforcement as well. Besides the masthead on the Daily News Hub, you'd find the feature story inserted. Police seal Edo Deputy Governor Shuaibu's office after Obaseke's aide reports to IGP on plans to break into government house. Now, the lead story on the Daily News Hub has the catchphrase, Edo Guber fallout. Obaseke Wife jet out of Nigeria, flee to Venice. Government proceeds on terminal leave, hands over state affairs to Secretary to the state government. Directs SSG to prepare, submit handover notes to governor-elect on November 12. On the rider, Rivers crisis. I can't give my kidney, liver to remain governor, says Fubara. ABGA records landslide in Anambra local government elections. Now, on the First News, you would find more stories this morning making headlines on the First newspaper. Our next stop, and it's on the controversy following the Bobrisky bribery saga. Now, the EFCC, Bobrisky, very dark man, are all expected to appear before the National Assembly today. Now, that is the headline story you'd find on the First newspaper. It has the catchphrase, EFCC bribery claims, very dark man to appear before National Assembly today, as Bobrisky uses social media influencer, as Bobrisky sues social media influencer, demands 1 billion naira. Now, on the rider, without Wike, I wouldn't be Minister of Petroleum, comes from Senator Lokbobiri, which is an interesting story to find out more perspectives into why Senator Heineken Lokbobiri has made such a comment. Is it ingratitude? What might have fueled this revelation coming in on a Monday morning? Now, ahead of tomorrow, with the controversies surrounding if the planned October 1 protest would hold, the Leadership newspaper gives us more perspectives into the story. Now, we looked at it earlier, would skip that. We'll also see more papers coming in as we look at the Matrix newspaper. On the Matrix this morning, would find more on the calls from the Academic Staff Union of Universities to the federal government in a face-off following the expiration of a 21-day ultimatum. Would ASU be embarking on a strike? But let's pick up the Matrix to find out what the editor thinks this morning. On the Matrix this morning, ASU FG face-off with 7 days to go. Fresh strike looms. Union seeks National Peace Committee's intervention to avert strike. Says government has proven it is not committed to welfare of academics. FG woos student unions, organized labor with 64 CNG buses. Now, according to the editorial on the Matrix, they think that the deployment of CNG buses is also a move linked to the impending ASU strike, with the federal government looking to avert the crisis. Now, you'd find pictures of that CNG deployment beneath the lead story. Whilst above the lead story, beneath the masthead, FG eyes more loans from China. China prepared to lend more, says FG. Tinubu appoints Tegbe to drive China-Nigeria strategic partnership. Other stories that might interest you besides that, you'd find 17 state governors set up committee for 70,000 naira minimum wage implementation. Official explains why Dangote plans to ship refined products by sea. Edo, Deputy Governor's Office sealed off amid ongoing tension. October 1, again Lagos State Government restricts protesters to 2 venues. Shetima returns to Abuja from 79th United Nations General Assembly. Now let's also pick up our next newspaper of focus, the Nigerian Tribune, this morning. And on the Nigerian Tribune, the headline is as it concerns the creation of more states following a call for a review of Nigeria's constitution. Many are proposing outrightly a new constitution. The editorial headline this morning reads, State creation, police top agenda as senators begin retreats on new constitution. State police in line with global practices. Those against it are playing ostrich. Senate leader, South senators declare. China prepared to lend more to FG. Discuss debt forgiveness with Beijing, says minister. Nigeria to save 5.4 trillion naira from subsidy removal in 2024, says Governor Abiodun. And on the rider, Edo election further exposes INEC's incompetence, says Afanifere. Says result lacks integrity. We are compiling documents to challenge outcome in court, says the PDP. Now lastly, on the state of the economy, let's pick up our last local newspaper before we take a break and make room to accommodate conversations guided by the headlines. On the national economy newspaper this morning, we'll find perspectives in terms of what Nigeria loses annually to shipping following the ownership of most ships in Nigeria to foreign entities. Now, the catchphrase beneath the lead story on the national economy reads, "Foreign ship owners' dominance on freight trades. Nigeria loses $86 billion annually as indigenous capacity dwindles." Despite generating 70% of total cargo in West, Central Africa regions, lack of government support is killing our business, says ship owners. Now, you'd find pictured beneath that a picture of cargoes on board a ship on the ocean. On the header of the national economy, two stories of interest. Nigeria's approved loan apps raises to 320 amid demand. Nigeria's approved loan apps rises to 320 amid demand. Only 26% of Nigerian workers have pension, health insurance, says the National Bureau of Statistics. That indeed is a shocking revelation that only 26% of the workforce in Nigeria have some sort of coverage in terms of their pension and a health insurance. What might be the reason fueling the lack of this investment in the workforce of Nigeria? Interesting discussions to be had this morning. At this point, we'll take a break, and when we return, we'll be joined by our in-house reviewer to broaden the scope of our conversation as we review headline stories and other issues in the news. Do well to stay with us.
Welcome to the world where innovation meets opportunity, where ideas become empires. This is Market TV.
I am Idorian Flannan, and every week I'll be taking you inside the dynamic world of marketing and commercial business.
From groundbreaking startups to big businesses, Market TV brings you the best pricing and latest goods on display.
It's all about understanding your audience and staying ahead of the trends.
Witness the creative processes that drive the various brands.
Join us as we dive deep into the strategies that shape the commercial landscape. From streets to traditional advertising and social media, we cover it all.
Whether you're a seasoned professional or an aspiring entrepreneur, Market TV provides the insights you need to thrive.
This show gave us the tool to turn our vision into reality.
So, if you're ready to master the market, tune into Market TV every Saturday at 6 p.m.
Welcome to the Niger Delta, a region of incredible beauty and stark contrast. From its breathtaking landscapes to its rich cultural heritage, this is a place where history and modernity collide. But beneath this serene surface lies a story of struggle and resilience. The Niger Delta is the lifeblood of Nigeria's economy, home to vast oil reserves that fuel the nation, yet it is a land where the people fight for their share of the wealth. Join us on the program Niger Delta Today as we explore the heart of the Niger Delta, discover the vibrant cultures, the struggles for environmental justice, and the stories of the people who call this place home. This is the Niger Delta, a land of contrast, a story of resilience, a journey of hope. Don't miss our exclusive series, Niger Delta Today, every day at 12 noon, only on ADBN TV. Witness the untold stories, experience the journey, be part of the change.
Step into the heartbeat of the world, where news meets real talk. From breakthroughs in diplomacy to humanitarian challenges and scientific milestones, Global Digest takes you beyond the headlines and straight to the heart of the matter. I am Amma Marcus, Be a part of the world's unfolding stories at 3 p.m. on ADBN, channel 258 on DSTV, and Star Times, channel 140. Global Digest, your window to the world's current affairs, only on Advocate Broadcasting Network.
In a world of overwhelming voices where everyone has different opinion on different issues, it is important that we bring the core issue to the fore. Join me, Nancy Banigo, on Softline as we lend our voices to inform and influence your thoughts and actions. This is not just mere talk, it is an invocative program that touches the core of our existence.
No matter wetin I see, enough fit make mouth heavy to talk am. That's now why people dey talk.
You know wetin dey worry you, but you no go fit take help yourself.
If you are not a judge, you are not a judge.
Make we talk good where we dey see good, and where we know say we no dey see good, make we also dey talk am.
No woman, no mother deserve to know the grave of his child.
The bank manager, the bank executive, they are the one the government should first place.
People They Talk, the show on Monday to Friday by 5 p.m. on top ADBN TV.
Well, thanks for staying with us on the program this morning. It's about time for us to lend our thoughts, comments, and opinions to issues in the news. Remember, we do advise that you refrain from using inflammatory or inciting comments when you join the conversation on our online stream. It's about objectivity. Remember, Nigeria is going to be 64 years tomorrow. A lot of Nigerians disgruntled about our progress so far. But is it entirely doomed? Well, persons like the President of the Senate believe that despite the bumpy days on our journey to achieving the Nigeria of our dreams, that indeed our nation would prevail. Now, joining us to expand his thoughts on these issues in the news is a public affairs analyst and a gentleman of the press from the People's Reporter as well. Talking about none other than Olarawaju Fowobui Desmond. Well, welcome to the show. We hear that you're joining us from Okitipupa this morning. How's the weather over there?
The weather is bright. Good morning, Bito. Good morning, Nigeria. The weather is bright, as you all know that Ondo State is the sunshine state where you expect the sun to shine and to set first before any other state. So you can see from behind, the weather is so bright here in Okitipupa this morning.
Well, notwithstanding, we'd have to check our NIMET advisory and be sure that Ondo is not one of the states where we're expecting 3 days of thunderstorms. But that's on a lighter note. Let's get straight into our discussion for today. Now, ahead of tomorrow's Independence Day anniversary, one person who is very optimistic about Nigeria's hopes is the President of the Senate. He has made headline story on one of the newspapers this morning, and he is preaching optimism that indeed our nation can prevail despite our bumpy days. What's your mood, and what are you hoping would be the mood of patriotic Nigerians ahead of tomorrow's independence anniversary?
I would also want to be optimistic. I would like to align and join my thoughts with that of the Senate President, Senator Goswi Akpabio, for his optimism. Why we may have our up and downs, Nigeria is a work in progress. For the fact that for so many years we've not been battling with civil wars, as well as we've not been battling with some kind of a situation that called for international, hate and machineries to come and take over this country like some countries have suffered. For me, it is a sober reflection, but that which requires every Nigerian to be grateful, and show some level of gratitude to the God Almighty for where we are coming from, where we are, and where we are going to. I'm so optimistic, and I believe with the level of natural resources, human capital level, capacity, Nigeria stands as one of those countries in the world that will be great, just like every other country. Every countries of the world have had their fair share from the troubles of economic and political development. Nigeria will definitely be good, Vito. Nigeria will get better. But the only thing that I think Nigeria needs to understand is that if you check the history of every country of the world, they always have a father to father a nation. Before a country can move or transit into a nationhood, there is always a fatherhood. A father that would nurture that country to become a nation. To me, Nigeria is more or less like a nation state. And there is this unhealthy rivalry among the different nations of the country. The different nationalities of the countries, we need to unite our thoughts. We need to be united as people for this country to move to a pedestal of hope, for this country to be a better country, for this country to be the country of our dream. We need to have a collective and a shared vision that is clear and everybody resonates with. From that time upward, we can have a functional and a working country. But underline this word, what is very paramount right now is that we are not getting it right because we are still rivaling with ourselves. Until all the nations within Nigeria, I'm talking about different ethnic nationalities in the country, come together and understand the country and take ownership of the country and consider this country as their own and align our vision. Until then, Nigeria is going nowhere. But if we can come together, Nigeria have the potential of becoming one of the greatest countries of this world, not just in Africa.
Now, very well said, Honorable Desmond. Our potentials cannot lie in any way. But talking about this perceived rivalry between different regions of the country, the Senate is going to begin a retreat today. And this retreat is on the need for a new constitution. Some of the agendas that will be topping the scorecard in this retreat are issues of state creation, state police. Do you think that by the creation of more regions, we're seeing the Southwest Development Commission coming on board, Southeast Development Commission as well, this would help assuage some of the yearnings based on perceived marginalization and what people would say is a fair sharing for our national wealth?
Yes, I'll go with the last thoughts, opinion of some people that is the fair sharing of our national commonwealth. The truth of the matter is why the Senate idea is a very good one to go on retreat towards the reformation of our constitution or some of the content of our constitution. For me, I consider that too. It's for me, it's an opium. It is not necessary at this material time. Changing or amending our constitution is not the problem of Nigeria. I tell you, Vito, Nigeria is a country with one of the best policies, some of the content in the constitution. The problem we have always had in this country is the implementation of some of the character of that constitution in our daily lives, in our business and our activity. That has been the major problem. So what I think the Senate president, the president of the Federal Republic needs to do is a robust reorientation campaign. The country value system is currently being eroded, and the country reward system is also falling. So the country is gradually moving into a country of mediocrity, where mediocrity is celebrated over excellence and merits. So what we should rather focus on as a country is to see that the people of Nigeria
considers themselves as a stakeholder in the country's journey to stardom, as well as invoke the spirit of unity, the spirit of love, oneness, and also respect the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And this is not just about the followers. In effect, I'm also talking about the leadership of this country. The leadership of this country needs to see themselves as fathers. Anyone who has been elected into any elective position should see himself or herself as a father, as a mother that needs to mother and father this country to greatness. That is what we're doing right now. We need value orientation. We need the spirit of unity, love for this country to work. It is not about changing content. It's not about changing words. When lack of patriotism is the order of the day, you cannot invoke the spirit of patriotism by changing some letters in the Constitution, but by letting people understand the collective and the shared vision of the country. Then after that, we can now go for Constitution amendment. At this time, if you bring any changes to that Constitution without properly reorientating the people and letting the people see themselves as a partner in progress of making Nigeria a great country, I tell you, it is an effort in futility.
Now, some of the other issues that are also highlighted by this retreat is the move by Southeast, South senators who are solidly behind this creation for new states and are also canvassing for the creation of state police. How would this help mitigate some of the challenges that the regions are dealing with at the moment based on insecurity in that perspective?
Vito, you cannot solve a problem, you understand, by creating more problems. Today, there are so many states in Nigeria that are states, but still depends on federal government to pay salaries. And not because these states do not have the capacity or the potential, you understand, to feed the people of the state. But the major challenge is that creating states and giving them certain allocation from the country, from the federal purse, has not helped Nigeria to grow, but rather healthy competition among states, tapping from the natural resources, thinking widely on how to convert some of the resources, even human resources, to wealth. States have not been able to do that. So you are creating more states will not solve that problem. You are creating more problems. Well, because of the context, because of the Nigerian context, because people are yet to understand our shared vision, or because the shared vision is not very clear. A lot of people in the part of this world have not really understood what is Nigeria vision. Where is this country going into? What do we tend to achieve in the next 10 years? What is Nigeria hoping to achieve in the next 20 years? And coming together to achieve those things. People are yet to see themselves in that way, or even the country as a whole. Majority of Nigerians are not seeing themselves in that way. So they believe that when you create states, more states will solve the problem. The problem is not about creating states. It's about equity. It's about having access to resources that is very, very few. And these few resources are not evenly distributed among the people of the country. And that is why we're having the conflicts we are having. Don't forget that conflict is natural. Conflict is a natural phenomenon with every country, with every people. But what is bad is violent conflict. And when you talk about conflict, the major cause of conflict in the world is what? Scarce resources. But in the context of Nigeria, our resources are not completely scarce. But the problem is that poor management of these resources have been the reason why the country has been bedeviled with poverty, with crisis, and other things. So what we need is reformation of leadership character. It's about having people to father this country, having governors to father their states, to have sincere love for the people of the state. It's not about creation of many states. But in Nigeria, we might understand that some people have been agitated that why do we have to have 19 states in the north and having less 17 in the south? That it will be good because of election. All these are still selfish in reasons. Because when a purpose of the thing is not known, abuse becomes inevitable. The reason why people are demanding for states, the past goes that when they have more states, they will have access to becoming governor, they will have access to get directly from the federal government. Do you know that in Nigeria presently, the region that tend to have more states are the region crying more for AIDS? I'm talking about the northern part of the country. The northern part of the country have about 19 states, and yet none of these states, most of these states, or I beg your pardon, most of the states are still depending on the allocation from the federal government before they can pay salary to their workers. So it is not about creation of states. It's about understanding the resources and positioning human beings to take advantage of converting these resources into resource. That's what we should be talking about.
Now, that being said, let's move past this issue and look at another very sensitive issue in the news. This is the eve of our Independence Day, but attention now is shifting to the planned nationwide protest to hold tomorrow. Civil society organizations are urging President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to make an address early enough to forestall this protest. What do you think would be the outcome? Should the president dialogue now, or should it be carried in his speech tomorrow? Do you think that those who are sponsoring the protest would be willing to grant the president a listening ear to avert some of the economic losses and also address pertinent issues that affect the country?
We've been back and forth with this issue of protest since August. And I've always maintained this position, Vito, that protest cannot solve the problem of Nigeria at this material time. Rather, we should embrace constructive dialogue, constructive discussion, constructive negotiation with governments. Some of the people calling for this protest or sponsors of this protest, they're a bit irrational. They are a bit very selfish. I tell you, I've seen different characters calling for protest. Meanwhile, even in their own personal organization, they have not been fair with all their employees. Even in their community, they have not been fair in the distribution of these natural resources or this wealth or affluence they have with the members of their community. Now, calling for national protest in order to cripple the economy and cause more hardship to people has never been a win-win situation. Rather, it left more pain, sorrow than expected. For me, I believe in constructive engagement, constructive collaboration, negotiation with government. I am not at peace. I am not pleased with some of the policies of the government. But yet, what I've been doing on daily basis is to engage with government to see that we bring about a positive change to those policies. And we can actually go on protest. Perhaps it's going to be non-violent, it's going to be peaceful, and it will not hamper the progress of the society, affect lives, affect the businesses of others that are in the country, do not share in that opinion or believe that protest is necessary at this particular time. But because we do not have the capacity to ensure this peaceful protest in Nigeria, if we claim we love this country, we are not supposed to be part of the problem. We are supposed to be part of the solution. Protest is not the solution. It's not part of the solution. Protest is part of the problem that we are having in Nigeria. So if you claim you love this country and you want change, why not constructively engage the government to some large extent? If there is one thing that this particular government of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu can be given thumbs up for, is that it's a listening government. and he has been proactive in listening to the yearnings of agitators and protesters. So it is not good to reward this government with continuous protest. So somebody like me, I have some ministers, I have some head of agencies that if at all you want to ask for redress, you can call Mr. President to remove these people or replace them from that office.
Now Honorable Desmond, that has been a big talking point.
Say you want to change the
a lot of persons are asking because the president had promised Nigerians on New Year's Day in his address that by this time there would be a shake-up in his cabinet. Based on performance, he would have to rejig his cabinet. Do you think that this should be part of his speech tomorrow, letting Nigerians know the ministers in whom he feels that the renewed hope agenda is being brought to light, and asking those who have not been part of the progress to step aside?
It is excellent decision, President, if he can do that. He has solved about 25% of the people's, because the president alone cannot do it all. And then there are people that are on board with the president on this renewed hope mantra that are not qualified or do not have the empathy to be a leader or to be in those sensitive offices. So if the government have decided today that he is going to replace or reshuffle some people from his cabinet, it is an excellent decision. You know, some months ago on this studio, I was in this studio where I talked about some performing ministers, and we mentioned some names. Among the ministers that I said is less performing was Chief Adebayo Adelabu. But today, I give him turn ups. I am in Okitukupa today, and they have lights. I've been using lights in this hotel for over 16 hours. And the same thing in Lagos. I was in Lagos yesterday. I had over 20 hours of electricity, and some other places I've been to. So like I told you, sometimes it is good to give time, know what they are doing, because when you appoint somebody, you need to give the person time to first of all do his own research and set a template that is going to work with and a framework for him to achieve certain results. You know, as at that time, I told you that we need to give some of these ministers some time. And then part of the reward of giving some of this minister time, some of them have sit up and sit tight, and they're working perfectly right now. And we're beginning to enjoy some of the dividend of government. Meanwhile, some ministers are adamant, they are not listening, and they are not even ready, responsive to the yearnings of the people. So they
would you like to give us an example of some of those ministers you feel are non-performing? Would you like to give some example of some non-performing ministers?
You see the Minister of Communications. I'm not seeing what that young man is doing. I'm not seeing what Bosun, is it Bosun, Minister Bosun, Minister of Communications. I'm not seeing what he's doing. It is not witch hunting. I've never mentioned his name in any forum. I personally, two different organizations approach these ministries, give recommendations on how they can involve more young people. Look at our young people with skills. These are assets. These young people independently are making money from the digital space. What has the Minister of Communication do in bringing these people together to see that instead of making money personally, why not harness their skills, harness their talent for national growth and development? You're not organizing symposium, you're not engaging with the community, you just believe that you have some ideas in your head and you want to execute. A nation does not go that way. And there are so many others, but I wouldn't want to mention names right now. But then, the Minister of Agriculture needs to do more, you understand? Because we're talking about diversification. Diversification. What has that done for us? You understand? Minister of Blue Economy, what has it done? The Minister of Blue Economy, the one who was compensated for losing the election in Osun State, we were told that this blue economy is going to add about $4 billion to our economy within some quarters. As of today, it's still setting templates, and we are not seeing anything. Minister of Solid Minerals, today, Our communities have now been eroded. A lot of invaders coming to mine our resources, and yet we are not seeing, because some of these people, they settle some people in government. And you see, all these are the problems we're having. Do you know that it is easy for you to set up a company, a mining company in Ghana, in other parts of the country, rather than setting it up in Nigeria? Because of what? You still need to buy cut corners and settle some people. I have a personal experience in respect to that. So the Minister of Blue Economy, the Minister of Solid Minerals, they need to sit up and work hard. Minister of Agriculture, they need to engage more young people and others. We are talking about renewed hope. We should not continue to do things the way we do things and expect to get results. We need to be fair to all Nigerians who have the capacity to improve. And also the Minister of State of NNPC, of Petroleum Resources, NNPC. I know the Minister is the President, the state. So they need to sit up to see that our refineries are working. It is not a time for us to be selling. NNPC have now been reduced to a marketer that sells fuel, petrol for Dangote. It's an insult. It's an aberration. It's an insult to our national, our collective sense of a nationhood. For us as a country to have 4 refineries and reduce to be selling, to become a sale agent to a private company.
We'll get to that in a bit because we'll get to that in a bit because that's the publication on The Guardian. We'll look at it. The Guardian has given us some of the statistics, and I'd like for you to make your point when we get there. But now, in moving forward to another issue in the news, which many are saying might be a move to forestall the planned protest for tomorrow, yesterday we saw disbursements of 64 CNG buses to particularly Labour and students leader under NANS. Many are asking the question of why 64 were promised over 2,500 CNG buses. The government is promising that 2,000 CNG tricycles would follow shortly. The CNG promise and this move, do you think it is unrelated to the planned protest tomorrow? Should it have come earlier? What do you make of this deployment?
Vito, I've told you before that there are a process to all these things. And I also tell you, it's not about getting these buses. It's not a difficult thing to get or to convert our vehicles to CNG or to import some of these vehicles CNG. You understand? You need to also look at other infrastructure, which includes what? The CNG stations, plants and stations, where vehicles can just drive in and refuel these gases. How many do we have in Abuja as I speak to you? We have just 3 stations of CNG in Abuja. And then in Lagos and Kaduna, they are still having issues of infrastructure for this CNG. It's not about importing CNG, importing the kit, converting. You can even import 10,000 CNG, but the question is, do we have the infrastructure to support it? Even some of these CNG vehicles that the president has given to people, you will find out that some of them won't be able to use them because of what? Inability or access to these CNG stations. And that is where the issue is. The president of the federal government should be talking to us today. How many CNG stations have they been able to set up? That is what I want to hear, not about these CNG buses. Because independently and some individuals, some investors can bring in these kits and bring in these vehicles. But the problem is setting up these stations at the big deal and having access to these CNG gases at the big deal. So government should intensify efforts. But at the same time, we need to give the president kudos for promising and fulfilling the promise a bit by bit. But government can do better in saying that they accelerate actions to see that we have not just the buses, but stations across Nigeria.
Now, in keeping with this promise, would do well to monitor the conversion and also the availability of stations. But to an earlier comment, which you also acknowledged, was a publication on the Daily Times, comments from the Minister of Power, Chief Adebayo Adelabu, who says more than 40% of Nigerians now enjoy 20 hours of electricity. He's saying more than 40% of Nigerians are, by this comment, on Band A. Now, we saw protests in some areas in Lagos following the arbitrary rate and the hiking the Band A tariff. Do you believe that indeed 40% of Nigerians are on band A? You said in where you are currently, there's been quite stable power, but many ask that, is this tariff reflective of the electricity that they're enjoying? How do we adjudge these comments and be sure that Nigerians are, in fact, enjoying as much as 20 hours of electricity?
Bito, I told you something earlier that in this studio, when the news broke that there was a rapid or a sharp increment in electricity tariff, I did not fault his plans as at that time. The only thing I faulted was that it should not muzzle or skills life out of people just because he wants to improve electricity supply to the country. Rather, he should look at on metered homes, meter them so that we can have access towards revenue. Because there are a lot of people in this country that are enjoying electricity free of charge. And there are so many government organizations, government buildings that have in their budgeting allocation electricity fee, but refused to pay for the use of electricity. What I was asking the Minister of Power to do at that material time was to see how they can ensure that they generate more tariff from unmetered homes and agencies of government that have refused to pay, instead of putting more pressure on the few Nigerians that are paying for electricity. But so far so good. The increment in the electricity fee has helped to put certain infrastructure and steady supply of gas for the servicing of the turbines that we have in the country, which has increased the supply of electricity in our homes. But then Nigerians are going through a lot already. It is not the Nigerian people who are paying for this thing that you are supposed to skills life out. It is the federal government. From the money they are getting from subsidy removal, they need to subsidize some other things. Part of the thing the federal government needs to subsidize is not just health, but also electricity and also support building of homes, because these are basic amenities. The federal government cannot do this, state government cannot do this. What else can a responsible government do for our people that almost depend on themselves before they can live? And right now, there is hardship everywhere due to the increment in petrol pump price, which has affected cost of goods, cost of living. So it is not enough for you to say you want to improve lives and be adding hardship to them. Just about some days or some weeks ago, I also heard the Minister of Works trying to introduce tolling to some area, some road, major road in the country, as his own way of generating money. Government is lazy. Nigerian governments are lazy. We can generate billions, trillions from blue economy, from digital economy, as well as from the solid minerals. But because the government are not creative, they're always looking for easy way to make money. And the easy way to make money is to skill the people dry. And that is what I was against. So far, so good. There is improvement in electricity across Nigeria. But I am not in any way in support that the only means in which you can have more revenue to put this infrastructure in place is skilling the people dry.
Now, in moving forward, let's look at other prominent issues in the news that have been somewhat controversial. Now, away from national issues is also the need for us to sanitize our institutions. A social media activist, Very Darkman, and Bobrisky are expected to appear before the National Assembly today. Now, this is owing to controversies as to bribery and extortion to the tune of 15 million that saw Idris Okoneye, popularly known as Bobrisky, claim not to have been incarcerated in Kirikiri as against the court order. Now, many Nigerians are asking, should there be a VIP treatment where it almost seems as though if you have the money, you can escape being incarcerated in correctional centers. What do you make of the National Assembly summon of the parties involved? And is this somewhat of a dent in the EFCC's credibility?
Let me tell you, there are many Nigerians who are suffering this kind of treatment. And that is the reason why some people still find crimes very attractive. They find crimes attractive because they know that if being caught, they can bribe the judges, they can bribe the court. And the events where that fails, they can as well bribe the prison warders and prison officers, or even some of these people for soft landing, and that is preferential treatment. This is what has affected our society today. Some people will tell you that I will kill you and nothing will happen. And truly, they will kill you and nothing will happen. And that is why you see that the country is not progressing. I want the National Assembly to be very fair and to be straight with this intervention, calling on the parties involved. The National Assembly should ensure there is probity. The National Assembly should ensure that they restore sanity to our system. Whoever is being caught in this ongoing crisis and tussle on the social space should be punished severely. Any officers that is involved in this case should be punished. Anybody who has collected money or bribe to give Idris Okuneye preferential treatment at the prison should be made to pay for it. Until we do this, we will not restore any sanity to our institution. Our institution, we have a lot of bad eggs that needs to be fished out. If we refuse to do that, we are moving nowhere. Nigeria is a wonderful country, but we have few elements that are against the progress of this country. Part of these elements are members of the EFCC, Prison Correctional Service, that have decided to meddle affairs with Idris by extorting money and collecting money to give him this kind of treatment that is now giving the country an embarrassment. This is a national embarrassment, and the federal government needs to do something squarely to restore sanity to the system.
Now, we've also seen some actions taken by the Minister of Interior, where some high-ranking officials in the Nigerian Correctional Service have been placed on suspension. Is that indeed enough? Many are asking if there is credible evidence. Shouldn't there be prosecution against them?
It is not enough to suspend. Suspension can be some weeks. It could be indefinite suspension. It could be for some period of time while the investigation lasts. But what I am saying is this: the Ministry of Interior needs to be fair to all parties. But whoever is a culprit in this ongoing saga, I want to plead with the federal government to do more than just suspension, but also to see that that person is punished, so that it will serve as a scapegoat or a deterrent to other officers or other members of the society who are privileged to be working with the federal government in different capacity to sit up and sit tight. Sitting up and sit tight means progress for the country.
Now, another human angle story in the news earlier reported by the Daily Trust newspaper is the sad recurrence of some civilian casualty in efforts of the military to flush out bandits. In Kaduna, we're told that there has been a disagreement between residents and NAF over the airstrike that has killed scores. 23 worshippers who are amongst the victims, and the Air Force is insistent that they only hit a terrorist base. It's again in question of how we approach issues of fighting banditry and terrorism. What do you make of this news report?
That shows you how unintelligent some of our military can be. Why we want to applaud their heroic efforts and their onslaught against banditry. We appreciate the military and we appreciate their heroic for fighting for the safety of lives and properties and sanity of this country. Why that is so? They need to be more intelligent in approaching this fight against this banditry. And that is why, you see, the issue of community policing is very, very important, and intelligent gathering is very important. You see, there is a situation in the country right now, and that is the civilians and the bandits are now collaborating. They are now living together. That is why this fight against banditry in Nigeria is difficult. I'm telling you, some Nigerians are benefiting from this banditry and insecurity in the northwest, in the northeast. Some people are relating directly. You see, this banditry wouldn't have been succeeding in this persecution and this havoc they are causing in these communities without the compliances or without the support of some civilian society. So that is why the police and the civil relation department of the military needs to go deep into the communities to use intelligent gathering to see that they're able to separate the wheat from the chaff. This continuous assault, killing, throwing the baby away with the bad water, has been a major human rights issue in the country, and it has not yielded any positive result. Some months early this year, we had about 155 people that were mistakenly killed in the same Kaduna, as a result of what? Trying to prosecute this guerrilla warfareans. So what I want to advise, what I want to suggest to the Nigerian military, the naval, and the Air Force is that they need to do more of what? Community policing, to be able to separate the members of the civil society, the civil community from these bandits. Because the current reality in the Nigerian society is that you see the civilian and the bandits, they're now working hand in hand, collaboratively, because of some benefits they are getting from this evil hearts. So if you continue to approach this conflict this way, or this war this way, we'll be having more civilian casualties. That is just the truth, B2.
Now, before we get to issues of the economy in closing, let's also look at another issue. It continues to be a lingering dispute between the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, and the federal government. Following the expiration of a 21-day ultimatum, ASU issued another 7-day notice to the federal government over unpaid allowances and are threatening a strike. How do you perceive that this issue would be resolved forthwith?
Like I always maintain, that our problem in Nigeria is that government are rather reactionary, not proactive. The government will not do what they are supposed to do at the right time until when it is a crisis. They will not intervene in managing it. The issue of ASU and the federal government is a long due issue that should not be surfacing in 2024. We've been talking about ASU since the return of the Fourth Republic during the era of President Olusegun Obasanjo. We had the same issue during the era of Yar'Adua. The same thing during the era of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. We had a share of that during the era of Muhammadu Buhari, and now Tinubu is facing it. And this thing does not require rocket science. It is a simple mathematics. It all tells you about the general level of our governance in this country. We are talking about education sector. A lot of Nigerians find refuge, even in Benin Republic, to study. In Cameroon, imagine, how can you leave a country like Nigeria to come to Benin Republic to study? That is to tell you that something is wrong with our education sector. Our education sector really needs serious intervention or a state of emergency. All this management style has not helped, and it will not help in any way. What we need to do is to declare a state of emergency. It's not even about settling the increment or paying the allowances. Look at our state of education, Vito. Is it what you would want for a country that is the most populous black country of the world? The giants of Africa? Our education system does not depict that we are the giants of Africa. Look at our education system. Look at our schools, where an individual lecturer, we have to be the one that will power a generator before he can carry out experiments in classes. Is that the kind of education we want for ourselves? The reason why you have a lot of half-baked graduates everywhere is because our education system has been underfunded and has not been given the due attention that it requires. Yet, we have some people, individual students, who have gone outside their way to become pride of the nation. But let me tell you, do our education system deliver the best education that can see to national growth and development? If you ask me, I would say no. And that is why I think beyond paying these arrears or allowances, it's about setting things in motion and put our education in a way where it will be autopilot, generate its own money. What stops our university from having a community of growing industrial community, agricultural community, where they can generate funds? Electricity can generate money. University can generate money. Our universities can generate enough money if only we put the right policies in place. And that is what I am talking about. It is not continuous putting pressure on federal government. Even the HASU, the federal government, the students, we need to come together, a tripartite meeting where we discuss how our education can be self-reliant in terms of funding, that we do not need to start putting so much pressure on the federal government allocation, which is not even enough. For me, we have not gotten it right, but I think it is about time that we need to get it right in our education sector. Because if you can get it right from the education perspective, I tell you, this country will be on the path of progress and greatness in no due time.
Now, in closing, in 10 minutes, let's look at other issues as it relates to Nigeria's economy. Now, a good number of newspapers looked at the trajectory as Nigeria projects to be able to achieve $1 trillion economy, but from the angles of some of the factors pulling that trajectory back. On the one hand, the Naira devaluation, we're told that today, the Naira exchanges with the dollar at 1,700 Naira per dollar, whilst only 7 out of 20 subsidiaries of NNPCL are thriving amidst over 22 trillion Naira debt. How do we get this economy back on track? Many are also speculating that there might be a change in the Minister of Finance as well.
I will also suggest that there should be also changing not just the Minister of Finance, CBN governor, the two of them needs to go because they don't understand Nigeria economy. They've been in Nigeria for many years. They've been in industry, but they do not understand the dynamics of Nigeria's economy. I know Mr. President on his own does not carry out policies. Some of these policies you see, they are not the sin of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. They are the sins of some of his cabinet members that is giving him wrong advice. Don't suspend subsidy on petroleum and suspend subsidy on dollar. Those two policies, floating of our Naira, is not a good policy that should complement fuel subsidy removal if you really want economic growth. And the people who are doing this advice to the president is the CBN governor and the Minister of Finance. And at this point, I think if the president wants to be fair to this country, you see, this Naira floating is not helping us in any way. Rather, it's causing more problem to the economy. And that is why all the good policies, all the good intervention is not sinking well into the community and giving us any positive results. My advice at this point is that the president needs to sit down. You know, like we have to be flexible. He may have this ideology that if I float naira, if I remove subsidy, the country will work. But let me tell you, there are certain policies that does not marry, that does not complement each other, and that is fuel subsidy removal and the removal of subsidy on naira, as well as floating our naira and taxing people. The economy will be circled. It will be circled. It will not expand. It will not grow. The reason why we are even having life in the country right now, able to pay salary, is because of what? Because of the fuel subsidy removal. This naira floating has not contributed any way to the development of this country. How many industries, industrial park, have we been able to implant or envisage that is being planted right now as a result of what? Floating our naira. The naira floating is supposed to woes investors. It's supposed to improve productivity and increase industries. But how many industries are coming up? Instead, many industries are shutting down. Many companies are closing down. So that policy is not working. So who are the people in charge of this? The CBN governor, Cardoso and Wale Edu. These people need to go. They need to go. We need to have a breath of a fresh air. We need people that understand the dynamics of Nigeria economy. Because if you look at paper economy, if you look at foreign economy, the solution over there might not be the solution that we need in this country. And that is why it is important we understand our terrain very well. It is not about, oh, this policy looks good on paper. It's about, in practicality, how will the people react? Or does it complement the ongoing policies of the federal government? That is where we are missing it. And that is why the federal government, as a matter of urgency, needs to rejig its cabinet to bring people that have understanding of the dynamics of the Nigeria economy and the socio-political issues, which will support growth, to come on board and put this in perspective and let Nigerians get the feel of the renewed hope that they voted for.
Now, in closing, one last question, and it's following reports that 96% of SMEs are struggling under the current inflation, whilst Nigeria has also approved 320 loan applications at this time. What does that intend for the Nigerian people?
Vito, it is the, when we talk about some of these policies, we are talking about sustainability. These loans does not sustain business. It is the economy, the right framework that supports sustainability of the SME, medium scale enterprise. As it is, giving loans is just the same thing like just creating states or giving states bailouts. As giving states bailouts help to solve the problem of unemployment in states or help to bring succor to the lives of the people in the states? No, it is not about bringing loan. It's about the environment, the economy, the business environment. Does it really support growth? Inflation will kill medium and small scale enterprise. And that is why many businesses are shutting down. Many people are closing their business. Many people can no longer do business in Nigeria because of inflation. And even the inflation, you cannot even understand. Like I told you, if there was a progress in our economy, you will see that the inflation will be dropping. It will be dropping. Every quarter, it will be dropping. That is to monitor that these policies are working. The reason why you see the price going up and coming down is because we've not been able to understand the economy and put the right policies in place that will seek to steady growth of the country economy. And the basic life wire of our economy is this small scale and medium enterprises. If we can put in a policy that will help these small scale and medium enterprise, I tell you that the economy, it will cause a contraction in the economy, that you see that the dollar and this forest will start coming down. But because the majority of the people are being shut out of business presently, that is why you see that the naira is losing weight every day. So we need to understand that, and then we need to do something to cushion that. And as we approach another milestone in our journey as a country, it is a time for a sober reflection and a time for every one of us to do a U-turn. Not just the leaders, not just the people we elect in offices, but also the leaders of church, religious leader, traditional leader, youth leader, and the followers. We need to do a U-turn. We need to stop doing things the way we do things. We need to change. We need to, for once, love this country. It is a clarion call for me that all Nigerians need to be patriotic. It is only when we are patriotic that policies work. It's only when we are patriotic that this country will work. So I'm using this opportunity of marking our independence tomorrow to call on Nigerians to be patriotic, love one another, shun quick money, and believe in hard work. Because the reason why it looks like God has turned his face away from us is because we are looking for a quick way to make money. God will only bless the work of our hand as a country. So we need to change from this dimension of making money from Yahoo and other things and start legitimate business. Let's start legitimate endeavor that will bring to a steady inflow of economy to our pockets and adding value to the country. That is the only way we can move forward as a country. And to all our elected officers, we should know that power is transcends. Now that we are given the opportunity to lead in any capacity, try to be patriotic. Try to leave an indelible mark. Try to leave a legacy that will outlive you. Thank you, and God bless you.
Well, thank you very much for your time on the program this morning, Honorable Desmond. We wish you the best of your week ahead and a happy Independence Anniversary as well. Well, that's as much as we can take on our local newspaper review segment. We'll take a break, and when we return, we'll turn our attention to the overview of foreign newspapers and headline stories on tabloids from across the globe. Please stay with us.
It is Groovy Mono, aka the Steez Prince.
Yo, what's up? It's Big Shags. I'm in London.
Hey guys, I'm Princess Jekoko. My name is Mutale Mwanza, the Queen of Zambian Media.
My name is Grand Friends iTech. Hi guys, my name is Baj Adebule. I'm an actor and a filmmaker.
Hello guys, I'm Falagade Banks.
My name is Kelechi Amadiobi, photographer, storyteller.
My name is Lanradi Dura, I'm an actor.
My name is Chidi Mokeme.
Hi, my name is Uche Uba.
It's Tobe Season.
I'm Miss Stems.
Hi ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, moms and papas, I am Jimmy. You can call me the entertainer.
My name is Esio Dometa. I am an actor and a film producer.
My name is Sobi Kuvala.
Hi. My name is Julius the Genius. I would give a shout out to ADBN.
Big shout out to ADBN TV.
You're watching ADBN.
And you are watching.
Keep watching ADBN TV.
And this is ADBN TV.
And this is a shout out to ADBN TV. Keep watching, don't switch the dial.
Shout out to ADBN. Keep watching, love.
And you are watching ADBN TV.
Shout out to ADBN TV.
I've got one thing for you. Make sure you keep watching ADBN TV.
And shout out to ADBN TV.
Shout out to ADBN TV. Don't touch the dial.
And you're watching
ADBN TV. Keep watching ADBN TV.
And I'm shouting out to ADBN TV.
You're watching ADBN TV.
Keep watching ADBN TV. This is where to be. And you're watching ADBN.
And shout out to
ADBN TV.
And shout out to ADBN TV. Keep watching.
And you're watching ADBN TV.
Keep watching ADBN TV.
Right now you are checking out ADBN TV. One time.
ADBN. Keep watching. I love you and kisses.
Keep watching ADBN.
And a special shout out to ADBN. Keep doing what you're doing, guys.
Please don't touch that dial.
Stay groovy.
Mwah.
Hey, Bobby.
Ha!
It's a shout out to ADBN.
ADBN. Advocate Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to the world where innovation meets opportunity, where ideas become empires. This is Market TV.
I am Idorian Flannan, and every week I'll be taking you inside the dynamic world of marketing and commercial business.
From groundbreaking startups to big businesses, Market TV brings you the best pricing and latest goods on display.
It's all about understanding your audience and staying ahead of the trends.
Witness the creative processes that drive the various brands.
Join us as we dive deep into the strategies that shape the commercial landscape, from streets to traditional advertising and social media. We cover it all.
Whether you're a seasoned professional or an aspiring entrepreneur, Market TV provides the insights you need to thrive.
This show gave us the tool to turn our vision into reality.
So, if you're ready to master the market, tune into Market TV every Saturday at 6 p.m.
No matter wetin I see, enough fit make mouth heavy to talk am. That's now why people dey talk.
You know wetin dey worry you, but you no go fit take help yourself.
In this kind of situation now, what if they really no talk to una? Wetin be the way forward?
They go bury our chairman on Thursday. We go remain here.
Make we talk good where we dey see good, and where we know say we no dey see good, make we also dey talk am.
No woman, no mother deserve to know the grave of his child.
The bank manager, the bank executive, they are the one the government should first face.
People They Talk, the show on Monday to Friday by 5 p.m. on top ADBN TV.
In a world of overwhelming voices where everyone has different opinion on different issues, it is important that we bring the core issue to the fore. Join me, Nancy Banigo, on Softline as we lend our voices to inform and influence your thoughts and actions. This is not just mere talk, it is an evocative program that touches the core of our existence.
Welcome to the weather forecast. We expect a quiet morning across the country with sunny spells and few patches of cloud here and there. However, there are chances of thunderstorms developing in parts of Zamfara, Kebbi, Niger and Kwara, extending to parts of Lagos, Southern Ondo, Akwa Ibom and Cross River in the south. As we move into the afternoon hours, thunderstorms are likely to increase over the southern region, particularly the coastal cities. Additionally, expect thunderstorms in most parts of the central cities, including parts of Adama, Taraba, Bauchi, Kaduna, Zamfara, and Kebbi. Stay safe and have a great day.
to Morning Express this Monday morning. Let's get into the foreign news as published on newspapers and tabloids from across the globe, particularly from the UK, the Americas, and Asian continents. Now, one issue in the news that has been reported by news media is the escalating violence as Yemen has been heated, left in rubbles. We look at the publication from the perspective of the Guardian newspaper this morning, the Times newspaper, and also the Financial Times, all of whom have some similarities in their reportage of the issue. Let's begin with the Guardian. On the Guardian this morning, beneath the masthead, you'd find the lead story, violence escalates as Israel targets Yemen in airstrike. Now, beneath that, you'd have a picture of prominence showing buildings reduced to rubbles following airstrikes, with an increase in the raids on Lebanon, which has sent the death toll soaring as risk of regional wars continue to grow. And this is quite a sad development, but all the stories you would find besides that are anger on Badenoch's maternity pay remarks. Anger over Badenoch's maternity pay remarks. On the rider, Austria far-right on course to win election. Austria far-right on course to win elections. Now, away from the Guardian, let's pick up the Times this morning. On the Times, you'd find more similarities in the reportage of escalating violence following air attacks, as the catch story reads, Israeli tanks at border as Lebanon braces for battle. Invasion looms after airstrike kills Hezbollah leaders. U.S. appeal for restraint on both sides. Pro-Russian hard-right party set to lead Austria. Above that, Tory rivals trade barbs over excessive burden of maternity pay. And beneath the masthead, following Manchester United's defeat at the hands of Tottenham Hotspur, you'd find the feature story, First for Football, United launched into crisis. And away from the Times newspaper, let's also pick up another newspaper reporting the incidences with escalating tension following the killing of Hezbollah leaders. The Financial Times newspaper also leads with this story in that perspective. Beneath the masthead on the Financial Times, you'd find the lead story. Israel steps up attacks on Iran proxies. IDF expands campaign against Iran-backed militants to Yemen. Warplanes strike Houthis and Lebanon suffers waves of air raids. Thousands killed in past week as Hezbollah dealt devastating blow. You'd find more pictures of the rubbles following the airstrikes. Now, more on this story is also captured on the I newspaper. On the I newspaper, you'd find the lead story, Israel targets Iranian weapons network in Yemen after wiping out Hezbollah leader. Israel widens attacks on regional enemies with airstrikes on Iran's backed Houthis in Yemen, hitting missile launchers, seaports, and weapon supply routes, according to the IDF. More than 100 new strikes carried out inside Lebanon amid reports that 7 senior leaders of the militant group died in the same attack that killed leader Hassan Nasrallah. Iran vows revenge for death of Revolutionary Guard general in Beirut, but Tehran leadership is thought to be divided over the next move between hardliners and moderates. Israeli military continues preparation for possible ground invasion, with troops and tanks gathered at the Lebanese border as Hezbollah fires rockets into north of country. 1 million Lebanese people, a fifth of population, have fled their homes, says the PM. Now, away from the I paper, let's pick up papers from the UK. Now, in the UK this morning, some of the papers turned their attention to Labour's move to have winter cuts. We're told that over 262,000 pensioners are in dire need for NHS treatment following this move by Labour. This is reported by the Daily Express. Now, on the Daily Express, you'd find the lead story with the catchphrase, cold payment policy would result in 262,000 old people needing medical treatment. Cruel winter fuels cuts will cost NHS £169 million a year. And above that, labor threats to armed forces comes at worst possible time is a feature story of interest. Well, this is as much as we can take on our foreign newspapers this morning. Be reminded that ADBN Television has an in-house program dedicated to broadening your scope of news around the globe, particularly on the foreign scenes in regards to international relations. The program, Global Digest, takes the air at 3 p.m. later today. Well, having said that, let's come back home and discuss activities lined up to mark Nigeria's 64th independence celebration. Yesterday, there was an interdenominational prayer that was preceded by a Jumat prayer by the Muslim faithfuls as well. And tomorrow, the D-Day, there would be a procession at the Eagle Square, which we hear is also supposed to be headlined by a statewide broadcast by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But let's also take a listen to an academic this morning, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, the Dean, School of Postgraduate Studies at the Bayes University, Abuja, who would join us now to discuss our reflection on Nigeria's journey thus far, progress since colonial rule, and a hope that has been hinged on the renewed hope mandate of the current administration. Hello, good morning to you, Prof. Can you hear me? Hello, Prof. Good morning. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly. I just hope you can hear me too.
Yes, sir. Welcome to the program. We're happy to have you join us this morning. Let's get straight into the discussion, particularly from the angle of what many perceive as tension. Tomorrow, October 1st, before now was just Independence Day. Now it is being greeted by some rumors of the nationwide planned protest. Having that in hindsight, do you think that this would somewhat change tomorrow's agenda?
I don't think so if government engages very well. 64 years post-independent Nigeria is not a joke. It's something that should be officially celebrated, like we have always done in the last 64 years. And of course, with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's disposition, I do not see him detracting from that trajectory. So, yes, there will be celebration. But of course, I also believe protesters, what they have told us so far, I do not also imagine that it will obliterate the importance of Nigeria at 64. So overall, we might see celebrations and protestation going in Paris too. But the important thing is that it should not degenerate into violence, as we often know that something that we often acknowledge as a consequence of what should have been a peaceful protest, especially with our last experience with the end hunger protests, as the case could be.
Now, Prof, you had talked about the historic significance of 64 years post-colonial, but the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, did say that these celebrations would be somewhat low-keyed owing to the current hardship. Now, how do we juxtapose such a historic milestone with current-day reality in reflecting on how far we've come and projecting how far we want to go?
Yeah, if you look at the way nations around the world are portrayed with respect to values. In the United States, we talk about freedom, equality, and of course, happiness. In the UK, we talk about tradition, we talk about discipline, welfare regime. In Japan, we talk about discipline, we talk about tradition. And of course, in France, largely we talk about style and tradition. In Nigeria, what do we talk about? Oftentimes we talk about resilience, resilience against some of our many travails, Over the years, Nigerians have emerged as some of the most resilient people, people who still manage to be happy despite all their travails and triumphs, as the case could be. Yes, we're in dark times, 64 years after independence. And of course, those that times are even worsening now because everything seems to be going south. You can also trust once again, against that background, you can trust again that Nigerians will pull through and they will find happiness in the midst of tough realities of existence. And that has been our mainstay, really. And that has been our staying power, even though we know it is not right. So I'm confident that, yes, difficult times, no doubt, we'll just continue to push until we can probably find levels of redemption through especially good leadership. Good leadership exemplified in sacrificial leadership, exemplified in leading by examples, exemplified in people doing what they're asking others to do, and of course, not doing what they're asking others to do. By the time we begin to see leadership by example, where people consider others before self, where people become less aggrandizing, I'm very sure that the people will key in, will be much more hopeful, and our values may begin to move from just resilience to patriotism, to nationalism, to faith in modern Nigeria.
Now, Prof, one thing you would agree with me and many Nigerians would also judge to is the fact that beyond our resilience, we have also been dubbed as a nation that should pride itself in its unity and diversity. But the challenge has been about certain groups crying about marginalization and perceived exclusion from our commonwealth, particularly the Niger Delta, the Southeast, where there are still agitations in some sort. How does Nigeria, at 64, reflect on this unity and diversity as a strength other than a divisive factor?
Yeah. Well, if you can hear me, because I can see that the network is shaking, there's no nation in the world that is completely homogeneous. What matters most of the time is the management of homogeneity. Even nations that are theoretically homogeneous, sometimes fall into strife because of differences, because of the dynamism of human existence, especially when they're in a collective. If you look at the United States, for instance, it's an immigrant society. We are witnesses over there to a conflation of ethnicities, nationalities. But over the years, they've been able to harness this, managing their diversity very well through the instrument of the law, of regulations, and a commitment, to the American dream. That is a level that I imagine that we need to get to in Nigeria so that we can be much more bonded. We are diverse, no doubt, but there can be strength in that diversity, if we are properly guided. If we are meant to understand that, yes, we belong to different ethnicities, but at the same time, we are bonded not just by our humanity, but by our geography, our common history, our related culture, and of course, a shared dream of building a nation that will be very respected and reputable in the committee of nations.
Now, Prof, will come to the use of the rule of law in strengthening this unity and diversity and ensuring that there is justice in our society. But first of all, let's also talk about a movement that is somewhat gaining momentum. There has been calls even at the legislative chamber by some sections for the creation of more states, a change in the rotation of power and the tenure of the presidency to allow for more inclusion. Do you think that this is the right step in achieving a federal character in Nigeria, that every Nigerian region is seen to be viable of being at the leadership at the point of the presidency?
Well, that's a very good question, no doubt. But you see, people will continue to agitate when they feel a high sense of marginalization, a high sense of exclusion from the epicenter of the nation's economy. And of course, we cannot discount that, over time. If people feel included, no matter how distant they are, no matter where they are located, no matter where they are, how remote they are placed, they wouldn't necessarily be bothered about asking for more states, a further division of our entities, our regions, or our zones. But of course, because of the continuous aggrandizement by individuals, by groups, and vested interest groups that regard the nation, as a place where they should continue to collect rents that feed on the nation, collective patrimony. That sense of agitation will continue to grow. But how do we remedy this? We can remedy this simply by growing our democracy, which is about inclusion and integration, one. Then two, by growing our institutions, which is about structures and system, to make the ability of the state to respond to the needs and aspirations of the people very seamless. And of course, we do know that institutions can also be grown by individuals who are well-meaning, committed to the greater good of the people and not to the self. But this commitment should not just be knee-jerk or episodic, but should be, and not just in pronouncements, or in what they say and not what they do. It should be a painstaking, worked over time, consistent with how we understand nation building to be. Nation building is work in progress, but we need to see that work actually progressing, not making two progress today, so to say, and of course you make one progress backward. It means that you are just not moving. It's all motion and not movement. So I think it cannot be weaved around the question of leadership, which is supposed to galvanize the populace, especially when that leader is seen as a hero, when that leader is selfless, when that leader is committed to the greater good, not the good of himself, his family, his friends, not chronism, not nepotism, not ethnicism, tribalism, or religious bigotry, as the case could be. Yes, Nigeria is multi-ethnic, and of course, the antidote to ruling or to governing in a multi-ethnic society is to rise above classifiers and divides and present yourself as somebody in love of the majority, not just the love of a minority represented in your narrow origin, your narrow religion, or your narrow interests, as the case could be.
Now, many will talk about our current leader under the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who often at times has been adjudged as a hero of democracy, going as far back as his Nadeko days. But in recent times, one of the historic achievements of this administration, I would think, is the fight for local government autonomy. That fear of government in 64 years has been somewhat relegated to the backdrop. But despite obtaining a judgment from the Supreme Court, the implementation of that autonomy in having elections that Nigerians would regard as being credible has been marred by a lot of reactions to the recent conduct of local government elections in Nigeria. How do we foster this desire by a leader that has taken a step to achieve this democracy we dream for and having institutions that align with the vision?
One of our being really is what I also mentioned earlier. And of course, it has resonated, in a different way, brilliantly in your question. All arms of government, especially in our kind of environment, weren't created, for the sake of just creation. They were created to achieve a purpose, and that's why we have local government. Local governments are meant to reach, the smallest of the people, the minutest of the people, consistent with the drive for inclusion, for integration, anywhere in the world. In the United States, they are called counties. In Nordic Scandinavian countries, they are called communes. In the United Kingdom, for instance, they are called councils. And of course, in some of these countries, many of these countries, they do not even know. They don't bother about the larger tier of government, the federal government or the state government. They've got no business with those tiers of government. They are concerned only with the government that is closest to them, represented in the councils, the communes, the counties, or so to say, as you may want to call it. And of course, we fashioned our system after the American presidential system, which is not complete anyway, but at least the one we have is manageable. But typical of our character to deviate from set rules, to deviate, from theoretical prescriptions, we have deviated over the years, undermining the local government, forgetting that they have some primary roles, management of parks, repair of minor roads, arteries, and all of that. And it has gravitated to a situation where you have their funds, even being hijacked at the state level. And over time, we've had several governments. I think President Buhari tried this by coming up with an executive order, giving them independence. We have also seen what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has done through the Supreme Court. But even at that, we are still seeing, conscious attempt, of government, particularly the state, to undermine this design. And of course, we have seen the result, deindustrialization, neglect of communities, permitting banditry, kidnapping, insurgency, and also vices to thrive, So what more do we need to tell us that it is time, we strengthen this tier of government as the closest to the people and as the most significant in terms of driving home or bringing home development, close to the people as much as we can imagine. I don't just know. And that's the point we're making. Why do things not work here? Things will work only when we ramp up our commitment. And our commitment is not going to fall from the sky. It's not something that is situated in the atmosphere. It rests with us. But again, it comes back to the question of leadership. Leadership has to provide the drive, by being conscientious, by not shirking responsibilities, by a determination to leave legacy that will ensure stability and sustainability for the good of not just our present generation, but generations that are yet unborn.
Well, thank you, Professor Adeni. Please stay with us. We're also having a three-way conversation. We're also going to be joined by a third party at this point. And I'm talking about Mr. Jide Ojo, who also joins us virtually to lend his thoughts on Nigeria's 64th independence anniversary. Hello, Mr. Jide. Good morning to you. Hello, Mr. Jide Ojo. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning. I can hear you. Happy New Week.
Same to you, and a happy independence in advance.
Same to you.
Now, I don't know if you've been following our conversation with Prof. Adi, but it's on the significance of our 64th independence anniversary. In your perspective, do you think that our founding fathers who fought for this independence would be proud of where we are as a nation, should they be privy to some of the challenges and teething issues that we're continuing to grapple with despite being independent for over 64 years?
Well, the founding fathers, I don't know whether we should commend them or whether they will be happy with us. If you look at some of the expressions of the founding fathers, the Nnamdi Azikiwes, the Awolowos, the Tafawa Balewas, and Ahmadu Bello, it would seem that they never even believed in one united entity called Nigeria. One of them said Nigeria is just a geographical expression. And sometimes we suffer selective amnesia that those who fathered this independence were more or less ethnic jingoists. They were not nationalists in the true sense of it. If you look at the elections that were held pre-independence, everybody was about their region. The MPC was more concerned about northern region. The NCNC was more interested in what happened in the southeast and south-south. And then the APG, Action
It may seem as though Mr. Jide's network has some glitch in it. We're hoping that once that network connection can be more stable, we'd have him reiterate his thoughts. Now, I'll come back to you, Professor Adeni. Listening to Mr. Jide Ojo take us down history lane, talking about the perspective of our founding fathers not being really nationalists, but having some egoistic agenda. Do you agree? Hello, Prof. Are you with us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Prof. Welcome back to the conversation.
No, this is Jide Ojo.
All right, Mr. Jide, your network, we lost you for a minute there. You were taking us through history and reeling out our founding fathers in terms of their agenda in party perspective and for the ethnicity that they had in their minds as against nationality. Can you pick up from there?
So what I'm saying is that when you look at the context of the nationalist struggle, our founding fathers were not homogeneous in their thoughts. And that's why even when you look back in history, political history of Nigeria, when the southern Nigeria were ready for independence in 1957, the North said we are not ready for independence. So they were not speaking with one voice. They were just, cacophony. Remember, it was 1956 when Anthony Enahoro made that move for Nigeria to become independent by 1957. The rest of the North said, we were not ready. We were not ready. Don't rush us into independence. So it tells you the story that Nigeria has a faulty foundation. Our so-called founding fathers were not quite homogeneous and they were quite disparate in their thoughts. They were more like ethnic jingoists, in my own opinion. They were more interested in welfare and well-being of their different groups, and people were thinking less about the nation. And that was why, Aguiyi Rossi, when he took over the reign of government in 1967, decided to introduce unitary government, because even our party system was ethno-religious in nature. You hear of United Middle Belt Congress, UMBC. You hear of Northern People's Congress, NPC. So everybody was just fighting, looking at Nigeria from the prism of their own ethnic and religious viewpoint. But when the Aguiyi Rossi decided to introduce unitarism or unitary system, it backfired. And when you look at the fact that between 1976 and 1979, when we were working on return to civil rule, after 13 years of military rule, they decided to jettison the thoughts of our founding fathers. Remember, at independence, we ran parliamentary system of government. And under parliamentary system of government, you win election from your constituency. You are not a presidential candidate. There was no presidential candidate. You win election into the assembly, and then if your party happens to be in the majority, you can emerge to be prime minister. And that was how Tafawa Balewa became prime minister, because of the working alliance between MPC and NCNC. And that was why when Tafawa Balewa was chosen as prime minister, Nnamdi Azikiwe was given the role of a governor general, or the governor or president, ceremonial president of Nigeria. So when you look at the fact that what the founding father bequeathed to us at independence was not nationalistic in outlook, that was why when the drafters of 1979 Constitution was drafting it, they were trying to foster us and merge us into a nationhood. That was when they said there would be no more ethno-religious political parties. That was when everything became national in nature. And people have said that in itself has become counterproductive, because today you look at 19 political parties that we have, you can say that only very few of them are national in outlook. The All Progressive Grand Alliance, for instance, has remained more or less like an Igbo party. It has always been like an Igbo party until the merger of AD. Alliance for Democracy was viewed as Yoruba party, party of the Southwest people, and that was where its strength lies. It won the sixth governorship position in 1999. So what I'm saying invariably is that we are still trying to experiment with different modes of governance, thinking that we will one day strike one that can best suit us. I don't know, people have been talking about what they call homegrown democracy. Homegrown democracy. They say, okay, parliamentary system that we run from 1960 to 1966, January 15, was bequeathed to us by our colonial fathers, that's the Britain or the United Kingdom. Then the presidential system that we have been running since 1979 was bequeathed to us by the Americans. And we have not perfected either of the system. In fact, recently, as late as last year, people were even talking about us going back to the parliamentary system of government because they felt it's going to cost us less to run a parliamentary system.
Now, Mr. Ojo, having listened to the comparisons between the teething challenges of Nigeria post-independence, now pre-independence, it seems as though these challenges have still manifested themselves in current-day Nigeria. I don't know if you're aware of the debates between northern and southern senators in view of a constitution review. There is a disagreement about regionalism. Whilst many believe that to achieve a more united Nigeria, there needs to be sharing of power to all regions. Some are canvassing for the creation of more states. Others are also looking at the rotation of the tenure of presidency. In your perspective, are this still a reoccurrence of our teething challenges, or do you think that going through the route of regionalism will be able to overcome the need for a homegrown system of democracy?
Well, if that question is still for me, I will say that regionalism will not help us at this stage. How do you want to collapse the state structure that have been there since 1976 or there?
1979.
1976, we started having state creation. In fact, 1963, that's when we had the Middle Belt. You remember the Midwest. We had Midwest carved out of the South, carved out of Western region in 1963. Then we have, by 1976, we created 13 new states, which led us into 1979, and when we had 19 states that contested, under which we had the 1979 to 1983 governance structure. From 19, we moved to 21. From 21, we moved to 30. From 30, we moved to 36. Now, how do you collapse these state structures that have been there for approximately 30 years? It's not going to be that easy. Then, issue of rotational presidency. I am fully in support of that because, you see, the whole essence of federalism is that federalism talks about power sharing between the federal and the constituent unit. And part of our federal structure is the introduction of principles of power, introduction of the principle of federal character principle and quota system. Now, I believe that we can alternate power rotation between the north and the south, which is what is actually happening right now. Because when you look at from 25 years history, from 1999 but to 2007, we have a Yoruba person, a southerner in the person of Olusegun Obasanjo. When he left, he brought in a northerner in the person of Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. But for death, Yar'Adua will have done 8 years, and power will have shifted back to the south. But unfortunately, because of the death of Yar'Adua, Goodluck Jonathan took over. And that was why the North said, no, they will not allow Goodluck to serve another term. And they voted him out in 2015, which is what led to the emergence of Buhari in 2015. Buhari has done 8 years. When he wanted to foster, when Buhari wanted to foster the North, Ahmed Lawal from Yobe State to take over from him. Remember, we were told that President Buhari anointed supported Ahmed Lawal to succeed him. That was why the APC governors went to meet Mr. President last year and said, no, don't do this. Power should shift to the south. And that was the mistake the PDP made that cost it the presidency in 2023. Because they decided to now give ticket to Atiku Abubakar, who is also from the north. And that was why a majority of the people using the instrument of behind the emergence of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, including people like the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, who sacrificed his presidential ambition to support the emergence of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So we can have that kind of constitutional arrangement that will now say power should shift from the north to the south. So when it gets to the part of the north can now have a primary election amongst them to say, okay, Northwest have had dominance, let power shift to North Central, or let power shift to Northeast. You understand? Then when it's the turn of Southern presidency, we can say Yorubas have had Obasanjo, they have had Tinubu, let somebody from Southeast, who is of Igbo extraction, become the next president. Then at the state level, if you don't have this rotational principle, you will find out that some ethnic group will never be governor of their state. And I can give you multiple examples.
Much like we see the case in Benue State. We'll come back to this in a bit. Much like we see the case in Benue State, where a certain ethnic group has been governor for long.
The team dominated the politics of Benue. The Galas dominated that of Kogi. The Abeokuta Ijebu dominated that of Ogun State. The Badon dominated that of Oyo State. And like in many states, if you don't have that rotational principle, power will never get to people of Okeogun in Oyo State because they are voting minority. The same thing with Yewa people in Ogun State. They are voting minority. So power will continue to oscillate between the Ijebus and the Egbas in Ogun State. So what we are saying is that for purposes of equity, justice, and fairness, we can have something in the Constitution that recognizes power rotation so that at least sense of belonging. You know, sometimes it's not even for economic reason. It's just for a bragging right. You want to have a sense of belonging that my tribe is the person that is governing. I mean, Tinubu is there today. Are the Yorubas not crying? Have we have it better? Do we have special privilege under the presidency of the
Yoruba? The same price in the market.
We're getting any commodity at a discount because we are from the same ethnic group with the president. But sometimes a motive, we say, oh, it's our man, it's our person that is there. So maybe in a way, he can influence some projects to the southwest. As a president, he can nominate people into positions as he has done. People have said that there's Yorubalization of the economy of Nigeria now. Or some people have even accused him of legalization, that most of his key appointments are from Lagos State or from the southwest. But maybe that's the privilege that you have, having a Yoruba person as a president. But for majority of citizens of the Yoruba race, we are not having it funny, even though we are the one that produced the president. But that sense of equity, justice, and fairness must be there. Sense of political inclusion. That's why there is agitation in the Southeast today. Because they are asking the question, if you don't zone, if you don't do rotation, how can an Igbo man become president of Nigeria?
Now, Mr. Jide, hold your thoughts there. Just stay with us. Now, we've largely discussed Nigeria post-independence from the angle of political independence. Now, I don't know if Professor Adeni is still with us, but having listened to Mr. Ojo, he has harped on the need for a homegrown solution, citing the fact that we borrowed the parliamentary system from the British, did not perfect it, borrowed the presidential system from the Americans, did not perfect it. But in the angle of economic independence, it almost feels as though Nigeria has been accused of going cap in hand to beg some of our colonial master for aids. Do you think that Nigeria is economically independent?
No nation can be economically independent. You know, if you look at it in real terms, every nation has a level of dependence on another, consistent with the times that we are in, a time of global changes, which some people like to call globalization. The world has become increasingly decentered, and of course, you want to benefit, you know, from the expertise of other nations. You know, we have United States now as the strongest economy in the world, even though it's been challenged by China, but it has reasons to outsource many things, to other countries. We have transnational companies, multinational companies having branches in different parts of the world. It shows that we are mutually dependent. But the point we need to emphasize is that when we are sheepish, behaving like Lilliputians in the process, when we are not respected because we practically produce nothing, then it puts us at a level that any nation should not be in. Of course, even political independence, we do not have it yet. Yes, we are. What we have is what some political scientists have described as flag independence. In terms of politics, we still depend a lot, on Western powers, and in recent times we're even moving to the East for directions, directly or indirectly. But again, I know that there may not be anything wrong with our presidential system. I've made the argument severally that our problem is actually attitudinal as against constitutional. If we are re-energized, if our values change, if our behavior in government change for the good of the people, for the umpteenth time, we can change the narrative, as the case could be. And of course, homegrown democracy, that works. We are probably just saying that our presidential system should be much more original. We should be much more creative about it. We know nations that we admire in global circles that are not necessarily, they haven't obviously copied another system of government like we have done. Dubai is an admired country or admired location. It's a theocratic state, but in terms of economy, it is doing very well. Saudi Arabia, it's a theocratic state largely, but in terms of economy, they are miles ahead of us. China is not a democracy; it's an autocracy, but economically, it's admired. And of course, it has a relationship with different parts of the world on account of its exemplary performance in the last couple of decades. And go to other Asian countries and countries in the Oceania too. They are doing excellently well. India, a third of the world poor used to be in India those days, but no more. Technologically, they have advanced. India has the capacity to manufacture its airplane as we speak, but they are not doing so because it's cheaper for them to buy from Boeing or from Bombardier, as the case could be, because of economics. It tells us that with conscientious leadership, once again, we can, achieve what we want to achieve. And also, yes, we can tweak our presidential system as it is. I'm not going to say that we should go back to parliamentary system. No, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with our presidential system. It's just about those who are operating it, because they are prebendal, they are partial in their attitude to public resources. And what can we tweak about it? First, we'll probably think seriously about a bicameral legislature. Probably too expensive for us. We can make it unicameral. And of course, my colleague has talked about rotational presidency. Yes, that may not necessarily be ingrained or imputed into the constitution, but it can continue as it is if there is understanding. Usually, it can remain at the level of convention, at the level of mutual understanding, respecting the rights of the other people, and to express a desire to belong. Because nation building is not about tangible alone. It also includes the intangible. And when we're talking about the intangible, we're talking about the psychological aspect of it. How well do I feel as a minority from Kogi State that I'm actually from Kogi State? Am I feeling, do I have a sense of belonging really? Has my people been opportune to govern the state since it was created? And if they have not been able to govern the states, am I integrated into development agenda? Do I have the benefits of governance? Am I enjoying it? If I'm enjoying it really, I think I'm not really bothered about who is leading, where the person comes from. After all, we are bonded by humanity. We are bonded by a sense of community, a sense of originating from the same geography. And of course, what I desire at the end of the day is the fruits of my surrendering my rights to the state and expecting the state to protect me as enshrined in the Constitution, which is that, the welfare and security. My welfare and my security is guaranteed. I've surrendered my liberty, my rights to the state to protect it. It's only when I'm not protecting it well, when it's not being protected well, that like we've seen in ages, in years, that people start to agitate. This point has to be emphasized. And of course, it has been our bill. Governance should be about satisfying the needs and aspirations of others, not my own. But our own culture is just about the satisfaction of the self, family, and friends at the expense of the others. And that's where we are.
Well, we must thank you, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, for taking our time to lend your thoughts to the conversation on Nigeria at 64. We appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Now, Mr. Ojo, just before we allow you go, could we get your wish for Nigeria at 64 as we close the conversation?
Well, my wish for Nigeria is that it ceases to be a crippled giant and that it takes its rightful place in the Committee of Nations. And we cannot do this without a very firm grasp of innovation, technology, and what I will call, technological advancement. Because irrespective of all these arguments, look at our agriculture, our solid mineral. We still at that ebb that we look up to the Western world to help us to refine our products. We cannot do value addition to our agricultural products. We are still exporting them raw. We export cocoa raw. We export all the, ginger raw. If we are able to have technological breakthrough and we are able to be an industrial giant, that is what has made China a world power. It's not the 1.4 billion population of China. It's not the 1.3 billion population of India. It's not the 250 million to 300 million population of US. What has made these countries that are mentioned industrial giants to be respected in the Committee of Nations is their economic and technological breakthrough. Look at how small Israel is. Israel is able to fight its enemies across its borders because it has technological breakthrough. Look at how they killed the head of Hezbollah last Friday. They didn't go inside Lebanon. Just one missile was targeted. They bombed with precision where the location where the man is. So we need industrial revolution. We need to catch up with the rest of the world. That is why it's irrespective of the fact that China is an autocracy, America is a democracy, India is whatever it is, irrespective of their political system, the rest of the world respects them because of their technological breakthrough.
Breakthrough. Thank you very much, Mr. Jide Ojo.
As small as it is able to command respect of the Committee of Nations because of its technological breakthrough.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jide Ojo. We appreciate you. I'm afraid time will not permit for us to go any further, but we're hoping that we can have you again on the program and continue this conversation. We appreciate you.
My pleasure. Do have a great week and happy Independence Day ahead.
Happy Independence Day to you as well. Thank you very much, sir. Now, Mr. Jide Ojo, a public affairs analyst, has harped on the need for technological breakthrough to ensure that Nigeria has its pride of place amongst the Committee of Nations at 64 as we look towards political independence and some level of economic independence as well. Well, this is as much as time will permit on the program. Tomorrow we'll resume with a Democracy Day special broadcast of events highlighting our 64th anniversary celebrations. But this time we'll take a break, and when we return, we'll turn our attention to our concluding segment on the program, ADBN Sports at 10. Please stay with us.
Welcome to the Niger Delta.